Hey everybody, Andrew with 745 Fishing here. Thank you so much for watching the videos over the last few years since I've started the channel. I've done a lot of fishing videos and some installation. This today is going to be another installation type of tour of the boat. I just updated to the new 34 transducer for the LiveScope. Back in December of 2020, I took you all on a tour of my boat. At that point, I had three 93 SVs. I had the GMS 10 port expander, and I also had just installed the new LiveScope. And I was powering that LiveScope with a DeWalt battery. And I have since scrapped all that stuff, and now I've updated my boat. I've got two 106 Ultras. I've still got a 93 SV UHD. I've got the new 34 transducer for the LiveScope, and I've gotten rid of the GMS 10. So I'm going to take you on a tour of just where I put everything and how I installed stuff on the trolling motor, how I hide cables, and then I'm going to take you through a little bit of how I network everything too. So I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, let's have a first look inside the box. We've got on top the GLS 10, which is the black box. This is the same black box that came with the 32. I am still going to exchange it on my boat just so I can have the newer one. Looking deeper in the box, we've got a networking cable, it looks like. We've got the power cable, which I'm going to leave this in the package. Whoever buys my old 32 in black box, I'm gonna have them take the new power cable. Here's just the adapters for the end of the cables for that. Here's the new 34 transducer, which I would say is much bigger than the 32. But it's an upgraded version, so hopefully it's going to be awesome. We've got all of the mounting brackets and everything, including the perspective mount, which now comes with this unit versus having to buy it separate like you did last time. So every mount for whichever side of the trolling motor that you were going to do is right there. We've got the ferrite for the transducer cable. This is just a little adapter cable for the networking, and of course it comes with 4 stainless steel screws and the manual. That is it. That is all that's in the box. So now it's time to get this thing exchanged on the boat. All right, just to show you what we are working with, I've got the LVS34 that we are going to take off the boat. I've got it on a perspective mount. I've got it 7 inches from the top of the trolling motor head. I've got all of the cables going up here. I use these protective things that actually I was using on a Motor Guide professional trolling motor on a previous boat, and these things are awesome, so I'm going to take these things off. I've got this all wound up along with the transducer cable for the 54 as well, and then I actually bought a stainless bolt that fits in here on this side, so everything is ran nice and neat. You notice I did use zip ties, and I know that they say not to, but I do not tighten these at all. These are extremely loose, just tight enough to where they don't move. I just don't like using electrical tape. After a while it gets sticky and it gets gross, and this is a much cleaner installation to do it this way. To take you on a tour of the other side of this, you see my OCD that comes out with the cabling, but this is how I did it, and it's been awesome. Goes right into the side there. You don't have to go down the actual cable shaft of the trolling motor this way, and it's worked for over 2 years this way. So this is what we're going to do. We're just going to take it off a little bit at a time and just work our way up and around to install the new one. So I took off the perspective mount for the 32, and this is the back. I just want to show you something that I did. I've got a Minn Kota Ultrex, and there is a groove in the shaft that goes down, and I've got a 54 installed on the bottom of the motor, and I actually ran the transducer cable up through that, and this thing goes right over it and actually helps protect it. So if you guys have a Minn Kota Ultrex, you guys can do that too. So here's a trick that I did on the last time that I installed the 32 on here. It comes with this rubber liner that helps the mount stay on the shaft of the trolling motor, but it's kind of tricky to get this thing in here and wrap it around. I guess you can do some tape around it just to put that on there first and then put this on. But what I did was I just measured here, and I just put it on the back piece here. So I'm gonna cut here, and I'm just gonna have it on the back piece so then it doesn't stick out, and it worked great. So I've got it on here, and I'm just gonna mark it right there. And I'm gonna take a straight edge, and I'm just gonna cut that, and then it's just gonna be on the back part. So as you can see, I cut that down, and now it fits just in that back mounting part of there. And it's not gonna wrap around the whole thing, but it's just there, and it's just enough. And if you get it tight enough, it doesn't move at all. All right, now I'm gonna clip off these protectors. We are ready. I've got it mounted on the perspective mount, and it's time to take off these. Got these so tight on this thing, it's hard to get off. There we go. These things are just gonna come right off, usually, just like that. They just slide off. And as you can see, I've got the cable hidden underneath there, just like that. So we're gonna peel away the 32 transducer cable from there and clip off this one. So now that's pretty much gone. Here's the 32. I'm gonna put that over here. And I'm gonna start running the 34 cable up the shaft and then put those things back on. I'm just gonna work my way up around, just one at a time, just like 1 foot at a time. All right, so I've got this in here, and I put one on just to see if this thing will still work in perspective mount. So I'm going to move this to the area where it needs to be, which is B3, it's called, right there. So there's enough cable in order to do the perspective mode still. And if I come back up just like that and put it into the right spot there, there's still enough. It looks like I'm gonna need a bigger loop than I thought I was gonna need. Let me just do that again to make sure. B3, there it is right there. That looks perfect right there. So I'm gonna try to get just as little as I can. If I stop right there, that looks pretty good. All right, so I've got that one on. I'm gonna slide this one on now. Make sure it's right in the middle. Put it up against there, and now I've got both of those, and now it's ready. I've started to take off the rest of the transducer cable from here, and then I will slowly just move this and start to wrap it around here again. All right, so I do put just a single zip tie on each one of these. These things are pretty tight, but they can snap off, so I just don't want them to. You can find these things. Bass Pro in the tracker parts sometimes has these in stock still, but they used to be made for the old Motor Guide Pros, and these things just snap right on. I just had mine still, so I used them for this install when I did this a couple years ago, and it really looks nice too. All right, so I've got the motor deployed because I'm running the rest of the wire around. You guys can see what I bought here. These are the little mounts that I bought, and I bought a little hex bolt that fits directly into the holes that are already in the Ultrex mount. And then I run the 54 transducer through there, and then I'm just lightly zip tying the 34 transducer cable to that. And as you can see, I'm running it all the way down around here, and then down, and then out, and then down through the panel, the front panel that then goes to the black box, where I'm going to show you where that's located here shortly. Now we've got everything tied up and clean, and now the wires are going down into the front panel here underneath the graphs. So I got to take up the panel and start running the wires down to the black box and unhooking the 32. Here's underneath. I've got a heading sensor under here. I've got all the power stuff, of course, but where the cables come in underneath this panel, if you guys have a Nitro or a boat like this, I put little zip tie things with the screw holes on them, so then these wires don't pull out of here. They just stay put, and I did one for the 54 and one for the 32 transducer as well. And I'm gonna obviously remove the 32 one and replace it with the 34. This is where I mounted the black box. This has been a great spot. This is just in the driver's side rod locker. I just use this for storage. One thing I did have to do when I initially installed this black box a couple years ago
was I did have to relocate the longer seat pole, which is something that I never use, so that was no big deal. But this has been a great location. It stays nice and cool in here. I've never had a problem with that. It's easy to get to. It's easy to run all of the cables to from the front of the boat as well. So it's been a good spot. The next step, now that I've shown you how I installed the 34 and how I have hidden all of the wiring and where I put the black box, we're gonna actually take this out on the lake and I'm gonna see what this new 34 is all about. I'm gonna take you through a tour of the electronics on my boat and how I have it wired, how I have it powered, and some of the stuff about the networking and how I do that as well. All right, so we have everything installed. I've got the new 34 transducer installed. We're out here on the lake this morning, and just to take you on a quick tour of the boat like I did a couple years ago, I've upgraded the console graph here to the 106 Ultra. It's been awesome. The display is so much better than the 93 as far as side imaging and all that. And then up front, I still have my 93 SV UHD. I usually either have a map or something on that or 2D, and then I've got my 106 up front as well. And this is the first look at the 34 transducer, and it looks pretty good. I have done all my settings before I got up here, and I got all my settings from Brian at the Kansas Angling Experience. He does a great job as far as Garmin tutorials go and settings. So if you haven't checked out his channel, he's got some great stuff. But here's what it is so far, and I'll take you through how I networked everything and how I use it. All right, so the last time I took you guys through a tour of my boat a couple years ago, I had the GMS-10, which was the port expander. Because I had 3 93 SVs that did not have 2 different networking ports on the back, I needed to use that to be able to network all of my graphs. Once I upgraded to 2 of the 106s, I got rid of the GMS-10 because I did not need it. The 106 Ultras have 2 networking ports on the back of each one. So the way that I did it was I went from the GLS-10, which is the black box for the LVS34. I went that directly into the front graph here for LiveScope, and then using the other networking port, I went 20 feet. It's not exactly, but I used a 20-foot networking cable to go back to the console graph, and then out of the console graph, another 20-foot run back up to the 93 SV. So everything is networked. As you can see, I've got the LVS34 hooked up to this 106 up front. I've got the 93 and I'm using the GT54, which is on the trolling motor. But what's neat about this is that I can go to home here, and because everything's networked, I can pull up LiveScope on this one too. I don't really use it on both graphs, but it just shows you what you can do. Once I'm on 2D, so as you can see, I'm back to 2D. If I go to menu, sonar setup, and source, I can choose which one I want. So the console 106 SV actually has the 56 transducer, so I can actually choose that one, go back, and now I'm using the 56 UHD transducer up front, which is not something that I really would want to do because it's about 18 feet back there. But I'm just showing you, once you network everything, you can share transducers from the front to the back. I can see my LiveScope on either one of these front graphs or either on the console as well. So something unique that I did on my boat was I installed a switch just for the black box. And I know that they say that the black box is supposed to turn off once all the graphs are off, but I found over time that it would draw down the battery. And so I installed this switch. I got this switch on Amazon. I will attempt to put that on the comments as well on where I got that. But this way I can turn on and off the GLS-10, the black box, for the LiveScope whenever I want to. or sometimes I don't even have to use it. I can just leave that off if I know that I'm not going to use LiveScope on a particular day. Another way that's different from the last time that I did a video like this, as far as power, I did get rid of the DeWalt battery. That really worked well. I just had that powering the black box before, and I had that switched. But now I have gotten rid of that, and I upgraded to all amped lithium batteries, not only for the trolling motor, but I got the 48 amp hour as well for all of my electronics. I've got the two 106 SVs on that. I've got the 93, and I've got the LiveScope as well.